the other thing that I'm proudest of course, is I ran my first New York City Marathon in 1978, and I started teaching here in 1975, I think. And so a bunch of us were sitting up in the staff room. The staff was very small. You know, we had one administrative assistant, Mrs. Lumbers, and Mrs. Livingston was the principal, of course. And we were sitting in the staff room one day, and one of the staff said to me, Vicki Hollenberg said to me, so, you know, what about the kids? You know, what about a marathon for the kids? So it's really, I get a lot of the credit for starting the mini marathon, which, you know, I did organize it, and Vicki was not athletically inclined, shall we say. But so I started having at lunchtime any kids who wanted to run this mini marathon could come out, and we did exercise and warm-ups and stretching exercises, and we did that for I think about 3 or 4 weeks before the first one, which was in I think November of 1978. And I managed to get a hold of someone named Brian Williams, who was a sportscaster at CBC. You guys know him?
Very well.
Really?
If any of you have watched the Olympics, any of the Olympic coverage, Brian Williams does. Most
Okay.
of the Olympic coverage.
So I spoke to him on the telephone. I said, you know, Mr. Williams, there are these wonderful kids at a little school in Broadview, Danforth, and we're having a mini marathon, and he, bless his heart, managed to send a film crew out here. So somewhere in the archives of the CBC, I guess we're doing this for the camera more than for you folks, but you could probably get somewhere in the CBC archives, a little clip was on the evening news that night about the Montcrest Mini Marathon. And it was run, I think it's different, I don't know what your route is now, but it was almost 3 kilometers long. I don't know what it is now.
Not quite that long.
Yeah, and it went down on the rim. It started out in front, of course, and Bob Mumford, who was a janitor / drama teacher, dressed up in a rabbit's costume that we rented to run rabbit, because I was in racing. There's someone who runs real fast and sort of sets the pace.
That's what we use, the grade 8s now. We usually use the grade 8s for the little ones.
Oh, I see.
And we pick a few grade 8s too.
Do you have a rabbit costume though?
No costume. We could get some rabbit ears. Some of them wear rabbit ears.
We've used rabbit ears for our cross-country meet that we do.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, he came around the corner of Montcrest Boulevard down, and the kids were all there, and they all went, "It's a rabbit! It's a rabbit!" You know? And so he came along and said, "Well, oh, kids, you ready? You're going to start talking." Yeah. We were teaching science. This isn't to do with Phys.Ed, but I had a little Volkswagen Beetle called Delmore, and I had 13 kids in my class, and when we were teaching clouds, we would just get up and go down and get into my car and drive down Broadview to Cherry.
13 of you?
13. And we would have drills on, and don't tell your parents this, but we would say, I had them like, you have fire drills probably, we would have cop drills, because of course it's against the law what we were doing. And so, as driving down Broadview, I would suddenly say, "Cop!" And 4 kids in the back seat would go down, 2 others would go over the top, and the 3 people in the front seat next to me one would go down on the floor, and another one would go on the lap, and the other one would be standing there looking. So we practiced going down, and then we'd go to Cherry Beach, and we talk about, well, here's, look, that's a nimbocumulus cloud, and this is that, and then we get back in the car and drive back, stopping for something to eat. So it was a lot different, a lot looser. And it was really because of Mrs. Livingston that she loved creativity and spontaneity, and you're going to meet Mrs. Livingston at one of these circulations, and she was just a dynamo.
Kids that over the years either played on a whole variety of teams or really excelled in one sport in particular. Some names that, as we get closer, you may be familiar with: Sean Clark, Matt Pantalone, Brad Shaw, Evan Coulter, Lauren Wyman, Paul John, Patrick Fordyce, Michael Luba, Margot Scharf, Alex and Brittany Underhill, Adrian Danson, Lucas Peel, Jay Snyderman, Jesse Schwartz, Emily Danson, Owen Welsh, Taylor West, Matt Davis, Devin Stevenson, Stefano Zinga, Julia Whitten, Nastasio Zinga, Aaron Brager, Harry Scott, Fiona Boyd, Kate Allgood, Brad Allgood, Taylor Kidd, and Charlie Kidd, to name just a few. And that's only in a short number of years, but there were many kids over the years that came to mind.
So, do you remember your first introduction to the Montcrest School community?
Yes, I had moved to Toronto in 1993 and was looking for a teaching job. And in 1994, there was a little tiny ad in the Globe and Mail for a private school looking for a science teacher and a Phys.Ed teacher. Just like the science department. I sent in my resume, I got a response back, and I came in and had the pleasure of discovering this wonderful tiny community in a big city. I met Mrs. Danson, Mrs. Maxwell, Ms. Maxwell, and Miss Gray right off the bat. They interviewed me. I was invited to come back, and I spent a day with Mr. Nix, getting to know the Phys.Ed program and all of the ins and outs of this wonderful community of Montcrest School. Soon after I was hired, I remember being in the staff room, which was then at the top of 4 Montcrest, in the building there, and meeting some of the staff members. One of the first people I remember meeting was Haley's mom, Miss Warbrick. She came in like a tornado into the staff room and was all excited. She had just finished, the kids had just finished putting on the play, The Adventures of Sarah Brighton. And she very quickly told me all about it and asked me if I wanted to buy a video, and then zoom, she left the room. And
In
that
about
was
30 seconds.
yes, that was one of my first memories of Montcrest, and I remember thinking, wow, a lot goes on here. It was a small community, but a very warm, welcoming, friendly community.
I remember when I was a few years before Miss McKinley, so I started in September '89 and graduated university in Nova Scotia, and as well did a couple of days of supply teaching, and then I too saw. I think at that time Montcrest liked putting little ads in the paper for teachers, because a friend of mine saw a little ad in the Globe and Mail for a Montcrest school, and he happened to come in when he was coming for a job in the Catholic board in Mississauga. But he got an interview with the principal then, Mr. Hookie. But the job was for social studies and Phys.Ed, and he was junior high. So it wasn't a good job for him. So he gave me the clipping and said, I think this is a good job for you. So I came up and got the interview with Mrs. Danson and then the principal, Mr. Hookie, and started here in that next September. And here I've been ever since. But that again, it was two buildings with the primary building with all the classes to grade 5 being in the primary building, and all the classes 6, 7, and 8 were all in the office building at that time, with a backyard that had a little green space, kind of where your building is now. It was a little green space with 2 little soccer nets, and there was a little play structure where the colored tubes are there right beside the annex, or the cabane. There was a little play structure, and that's what the backyard looked like. And it had the amphitheater, like it had before, but it was an older style amphitheater that was down in the backyard behind what's now the gym, but the gym, of course, wasn't there. So it looked very different when I first arrived.
We spent a lot of time outside. We did a lot of running. We used all of the facilities in Riverdale Park, which we were so fortunate to have. So there was still the soccer field, the baseball diamonds, the tennis courts. A lot of kids were asked to bring their own equipment from home if they had it. We played a lot of cooperative games. And I remember particularly when I started in 1994, the bank of Riverdale Park, where the forest is now, had just been planted. It was a very new, very low-lying shrubs and grasses. So as we went down, not the big hill along Broadview, but the big hill that faces the Don Valley Parkway, closest to our school, we used to use that a lot to play games like Capture the Flag, and a whole variety of different tag games, when the trees and shrubs were little and you could see everybody. Now, 20 years later, approximately, We don't use that area quite as much because it is now a full-fledged forest. So from a supervision perspective, to try and keep track of where all the students are, there's a safety concern that we can't see everybody. So that has limited the use of that. And I know with our cross-country running meet that we posted over the years, it's a great cross-country running area because there's very cool paths that go through the forest. And although we are located in about as far downtown Toronto as you can be, there is this wonderful urban forest right at our doorstep that gets used.
And in the wintertime, we used to sled back in Patrick's Day. So we would, kids would bring small sleds and crazy carpets and things. And Patrick said earlier, we used to take, we had one of our big gym mats we had then was very smooth, not like the green ones on the wall now. It was a very smooth material on the gym mat, and we used to take that mat down, and everybody in the class practically would pile on top of that mat, and then because it was so slippery, the mat was start at the top of the hill and go down, everybody on top of that mat, so it was like the whole class slate, and it would fly, and everybody on top, and it was soft.
Start with 15 and maybe have 2 or 3.
Yeah, you might have 2 or 3 by the time you got to the bottom as you peeled off and rolled off. That first mini marathon shirt that you see there, he and one of the other teachers, the night before mini marathon. So this is the night before mini marathon. They had then gone to her basement with the t-shirts, and they silk screened by hand every shirt with the thing on, with the design on the front of the shirt, hung them up to dry on clotheslines in her basement, and brought them all to school the next morning for the kids to wear. What you see in that picture, that as you get it when it comes around to you. Very different from what we do, how you do it today with designing it, the things with Betty, and then Betty taking it to the company, and then they, you know, it's a process over time. Could you imagine giving that to Betty this last night and saying, Betty, can you go tonight and make those in your basement for us tomorrow? How many do you need? Oh, about 360. Could you imagine? Poor Betty. I think we wouldn't see her again after that.
Fondest memory of sports in Montcrest?
One of my fondest memories was working with Miss Perry when she was here. She did a lot of the coaching and our girls basketball team. And years and years and years before that, Miss Perry was a student at St. Clement's Girls' School. And at the time when she was there, they went to an all-girls basketball tournament in Montreal every year. And it was one of her fondest memories of her time at St. Clement's. So when she came to Montcrest and we developed a girls basketball team, she was desperate for our girls basketball team to join in this tournament that she had such fond memories from. We ended up getting included in the tournament, and I went along with her as a chaperone to Montreal in January, which if any of you know Montreal, it's a very cold, snowy place most of the time, and it was. But we took the train down with girls from St. Clement's School and Bishop Strong School, and the girls competed. They had a ball. Miss Perry was so excited to share with these girls all of her fond memories as well, and create new memories for these young ladies. And I'm pleased to say that this tournament continues. Mr. Nix escorts the girls down now to Montreal often with Mr. Mary Ann Grant, and it's just a wonderful tradition that continues to this day.